East Podcast, WATP.
So big news today. Stuttering John came back. You know, he's come back once since leaving, but that was for a political show. And he said, I'm done with the Dabbleverse. I'm over it. I'm too good for it. I'm too highly educated for it.
Let's hit some voicemails then.
I'm too Duke for it. And then today, lo and behold,
he was wrong.
He shows up.
Counts as erasers.
That's right. Sometimes he makes mistakes, apparently.
Damn.
He shows up on the show today. And it starts off with the gross eating thing he does. I know he thinks this is funny. I promise you, John, this is not funny.
Oh.
So he's eating a peach, and he's proud of himself. He's giggling at himself like he always does.
Eat healthy, you know?
Yeah.
I really hate when guys do hacky things.
Well,
you know, you do have to eat healthy, just not during your podcast. Would be my my one complaint about that.
I guess this is the reason he's doing it. So you play it and are like, oh, John's
I suppose.
But imagine catering your show to that.
Well, right. Yeah, he tries to do disgusting things. But you know what I think it is, Mike? I think it's John has had so many embarrassing moments. I showed the video where I think it was on Point Dabble Point where I was panning the audience versus grossest moment of the Dabby Awards.
Yes.
And people are losing their minds like they're watching Saw 3 or something. They can't believe what's happening. And John had so many moments with snot running down his face and gross things happening. So now he's leaning into it and be like, guys, I'm doing this on purpose. Like, no, you're not. Now you are.
Right.
But not normally. So you can't play that game.
He makes it too painfully obvious when it's put on.
Right. Now, we're not falling for that. So let's find out why John had to come back on today and do a show.
he said world exclusive Shuli's pedo producer.
He's talking about MutteringJ put out a tweet.
Was working at the network months after the arrest.
Oh, man.
A few weeks ago, Shitware said his pedo producer was part of the Uncle Rico show. It now emerges an ex-employee who left confirms he was present after the arrest.
Okay. So that's the big news right there, is that Eso Doe, after being arrested for having CP, was still working for Shuli. This is the big cover-up that John and Kevin Brennan and Rob Saul are trying to say, that for some reason, and no one can make sense of this part, for some reason Shuli was just like, the guy's into CP, whatever, I'll just cover it up, and no one will ever find out. That's something a normal person would do.
Sure.
You've been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Why not, right? And like, this whole argument makes zero sense to me. If you guys can enlighten me on why, I know that Shuli's a monster and everyone hates Shuli. He's the worst person ever exists. But even if that were true, why would he set himself up for failure like this? Why would anyone do this?
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because they hope that Shuli is a pedophile.
Right.
Their greatest fantasy is that Shuli is also implicated in this child porn crime somehow.
So, go ahead, Cardiff.
Also, why John? Again, John, the master of making mistakes. Why wait 8 days to jump on top of this news story?
The reason why is because he didn't know what his angle was going to be until MutteringJ told him. As usual, he had to listen to Kevin Brennan explain it, and then MutteringJ be like, this is my angle on this, because John can't do anything for himself.
Or Lee County School Board doesn't need his services anymore.
Well, I don't think he was ever qualified to teach in Florida. I don't think that was ever an option.
He wasn't qualified to teach in California.
Well, no, I know, but California's a crazy fucking place, Mike. It's crazy out there. Yes. The Wild West, as they say.
Florida's pretty nuts, too, from what I hear.
That's true. Good point. So this is the point that John makes early and often on the show that I want to address. And when I was watching this today, I said, okay, I got to clip this because I want to respond.
Now, I just say this to all of you. Imagine if it were me. Imagine what Lady K, just do it, would be doing if any of this was on me. Oh my God, it would be emergency show after emergency show. It would be night and day. Stuttering John employs a pedo. You guys would be fucking relentless. The Shit Network, Lady K, the goddamn Rocco, and Cardiff, the fucking potato, would be doing non-stop shows on this.
Okay. So this is what I want to say, and I want to hear your guys' take on this because I fancy myself a fair man. Now, this hasn't happened to John. I don't know how I'd react. I'm sure the circumstances would...
Fairy.
Good point. I don't make things up. So if we were to find out that one of his mods or whatever was caught with CP, I wouldn't jump to these conclusions that John has and be like, well, John obviously knew about it, probably was sharing those files with them and then tried to cover it all up, because this is what John and Kevin do. I don't do that. I react to reality and talk about that. I honestly don't think for a second I would use that against John if he got caught up with a person who was into CP, because no one knows who's into CP. Kevin, people don't advertise they're into CP. How does Carl know that? Because it's a fucking fact. It's a fact in life that when you're into CP, you keep that on the DL.
And if you tuned into the creep off, you'd know that.
Yes, I study this shit for some dumb reason. Fucking Vinny got me into it. But so John's claim is that we'd be having a field day with him if this were to happen. I honestly don't think that's true. What do you guys think?
I think we're relentless as it is, but not about that.
Right.
This is where John fucks himself in these descriptions, because it's just like when he says, you guys called comedy clubs and got my gigs canceled, you guys got me fired, you guys call my mother on Christmas morning. He paints because something happened once, he says everyone does that. Or we talked about this on my show on Sunday, and I said, some commenter said, like, hey, people would be pointing out if John's producer got popped for child porn. I go, yeah, that's kind of fair, I guess. And I think Craig was the one that pointed out, he's like, I don't think Carl would take like some victory lap over it. And I was like, I think that, and I don't think Cardiff would either. Like, we would make jokes about it, but I don't think we'd be like, John's a pedophile, the way like Kevin Brennan's. The one who would be doing that is probably Kevin Brennan.
Yeah, and I think that's the argument I've had, and I've been crucified for it in a couple Hackverse posts, but whatever, fuck them. We wouldn't be using the kiddie porn as the mud we're slinging. Right. We would talk about it. We'd make fun of it. We'd make jokes. We won't believe the situation happened, whatever, but it wouldn't be John must be guilty of this as well.
Right.
And like try and connect as many dots as we could. But yeah, of course we would talk about it. Of course we would, we would make, how great would it have been if Iso was still at the Shuli Network and there was another like pedo hunter podcaster busted him at DabbleCon 2? Like there could have been a crossover event happening, but it didn't happen that way. He was caught long ago.
Well, the pedo hunter doesn't know who to attack. There's too many of you there.
He picks up 6 guys in the audience while he's there.
Anthony Coombs goes running out the door. Yeah. O says you did it with Tony Michaels. I'm actually going to address that in a little bit. Tony Michaels, well, it was discovered that he was a criminal and he spent time in prison. And the way that he tried to pretend that it was just a misunderstanding and he made a bad decision, that's what we made fun of with him.
How people handle things.
Yes. It was how he's just like, hey, everyone makes mistakes. I'm like, I've never sold synthetic marijuana to people because it was a mistake. I wasn't part of a drug ring.
Right. It's like John driving for Uber or teaching. Yeah. We're not going out of we're not finding actual substitute teachers and being like, you fucking loser. Right. It's because John lied about it forever.
Right. And he screams he's a millionaire.
Yeah.
The other thing go ahead, Cardiff.
Did you happen to pull the subway clip?
No.
Oh, okay. Because there was a super chat later on in the show today where someone said, you still eat at Subway. Are you a hypocrite? And he went on this long diatribe.
I saw that, yeah.
Well, Subway wasn't a pedophile. Jared Fogle was a pedophile.
Right.
The whole company wasn't a pedophile. I'm
not the people who employ him.
Not the people who employ him. I'm like, okay, so he did not see the connection at all. It went right over his fucking head as he was explaining it.
I know. There's so many examples of this, and these people are just ridiculously want, and Aaron Himmel said it correctly. They don't like Shuli, so they're trying to connect Shuli to this thing that he had nothing to do with. So that's what it comes down to. But I love John because this is like that old Chris Rock bit where John loves to not know stuff.
By the way, I never knew who ESO was. I never did. I didn't even know. I thought that Phildo was the only producer. But then when everyone went, because when, forget who told me, I think it was Dustin. Somebody told me that Shuli's producer was arrested for child porn. And I said, oh, I knew that Phildo was a creep. And then they go, no, his other producer. I go, I didn't even know he had it. I thought it was Discount Don. No, another guy. I go, who? ESO. Who's that? I didn't know.
John loves not to know stuff. I'm keeping it real. I don't know shit.
Can I ask you something about Dustin?
Yeah.
Doesn't PI stand for private investigator? Why is this guy getting brought up so much?
That's a good point. I'm not sure. Not sure the answer to that.
It's very strange.
Also, this idea that John had a PI trying to find out all this information and dirt on Shuli and the Shuli Network and didn't know that his producer was arrested for CP. No one knew that. No one picked up on that until he was convicted.
Right.
How did that happen? I'm still wondering how that fucking happened. My guess is that ESO Doe was in his real name, and that was enough to throw everyone off the trail.
It's not?
so stupid. Kurt, are you okay over there? Do you need a lozenge or something?
Why do I keep clearing my throat?
You do.
Yeah, you did.
I'm not hitting the talk. I'm not. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, really? This doesn't mute me?
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Oh, cocksucker.
Okay. I thought you wanted me to pause it or something. You kept making these noises. I'm like,
no, I thought I had a cough button on this fucking thing.
I thought you had an inquisitive thought coming.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so John now, and this is the thing that John's doing, and a lot of these guys are doing, is they have to go back and forth between being so concerned about the children and the crimes that were committed, but then also trying to come up with fun nicknames and fun jokes about it. It's like, well, which is it? Are you like devastated that there's child trafficking and sex crimes going on? Or do you think this is like such a hilarious W for you that you can't stop celebrating it? So this is John trying to come up with new names for Shuli's network. I don't know why he does this. He's so bad at this.
Change the nest. Shuli, here's some names for your new crime syndicate. Okay. How about the Shuli Crime Network? How about that?
Okay.
The Shuli Crime Network. That'd be a good name, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Or how about the Hypocrite Hacks from the Hackverse? There you go. Perfect.
Wordy.
Triple H, though. It's not bad.
But what does that have to do with CP and pedophilia? Hypocrite Hacks of the Hackers.
You know how Shuli's always saying he doesn't like pedophiles, and yet he was working with one.
Oh, that's why he's a hypocrite.
He's a hypocrite.
Okay, that's
No,
why.
you don't get it, Carl. The worst crime you could commit to a child is being a hypocrite.
It's hypocrisy.
It's the worst thing you could do to a child.
It's like you could have came up with that name years ago, John. Now you think that's appropriate? Hold on a second. He's going to come up with something better. Hold on.
How about let's see. I can't even think of another one right now.
Oh, really?
I'm sure it'll come to me.
I bet it won't.
How much you want to bet everyone that comes in his head starts with Jew? And he's like, I can't use that.
The first one doesn't even count because he set it up as
the crime network.
Yeah.
Well, you can call it the crime network.
Right. What about the Shuli Pedophile Network?
So
that's pretty much what he just
see
said.
what he comes up with.
The pedo. Let's see. I'll
Just
figure
the
some
pedo?
other names out. The pedocast.
The pedocast. And he's proud of himself with that one. He's like, hee.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
YouTube might have an issue with that.
That's as good as John gets with that. But then our boy Charles Ramsey comes in with a super chat and gives John a better one.
Charles Ramsey, thanks for the $5. Welcome back, Duke. Take these hacks down. Hypocrisy Police over at the Sandusky Network. There's a good name. Call yourself the Shuli Sandusky Network.
Why did he
Perfect.
butcher it?
The shit-weighing Sandusky brothers.
Why would there be brothers?
He's getting away from him a little.
Yeah, just keep it simple, stupid. The Sandusky Network. He's like, the shit-weighing brother guys who fuck children.
He doesn't remember what he's talking about.
I'm not saying it was great, but TSN, the Sandusky Network,
Yeah,
it fits.
it works.
Why
Don't
did he
get
ruin
down
it?
yet. Because there's a reason he came up with brothers.
Why
if you
is
look
that?
at Charles Ramsey's picture.
Oh, you think that's what's going on? Charles
I think
Ramsey
so.
is obviously the famous guy who I believe is responsible for one of the greatest songs to ever happen.
Oh.
And Charles Ramsey was the guy
I
who
love that guy.
Yeah, the women who were being tortured in Cleveland ran out of the house and into his arms, which he was surprised by. So that's who John's looking at and going, the brothers. So then, after he's decided that the Sandusky Network is the right thing, now he's going to tell other people they have to use it, specifically Kevin Brennan.
Burt Lancaster's anus. Thanks for coming back. The Sandusky Network needs to be lambasted. Get him, John. I love that name. From now on, Pinky, it's the Sandusky Network.
The fact that he's telling Kevin Brennan what jokes to use shows you how out of it this fucking guy is.
It's all yours, kid.
Yeah. You think Kevin Brennan's going to be like, all right, I got to give John credit on this one. He came up with a pretty good name for this. That's what we're going with
He
from
came
now
up with
on.
the most famous pedophile in the last 20 years.
Yeah. It's like, we get it. What about the Michael Jackson? Hey, no, we got it. We got it. Sandusky it is. This is insane right here. John reads his tweet, a joke that he put out, and decides he needs to read that on his show.
A deadbeat, a shitwear, an arrested trailer park dweller, a silent faxer who lives at his ex-wife's house, a stomach stapler who delivers food, probably eats half the profit, and a pedophile walk into a bar. The bartender says, "Is this a shit network?"
Ooh.
Carl, that's not the first time you read on this episode.
That's a little wordy, dog.
But he read it. He read it when he was reading MutteringJ's tweet, and MutteringJ like retweeted that. He read it then too, and now he's reading it again, like through his. Oh, welcome back, John.
That
An economy of words that John doesn't ever respect. I don't think that would have fit on one of Karnak's note cards. You know?
Yes. Tom Myers asked that joke.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, John, that's not a good joke. I don't know why you tweeted it. I don't know why you're reading it twice.
Yeah, and workshopping it.
On your show. It's not good. Every now and again, John says something that offends me. Doesn't happen very often. I'm not easily offended. But when he says shit like this.
Thanks for the tenor. Our savior returns. I couldn't resist. This is just too big of a story for the Dabbleverse that I created unintentionally.
Motherfucker, you created the Dabbleverse? How dare you, Stuttering John Melendez? How dare you, sir?
He might give that one to you because you could tell he immediately realized, like, oh, fuck, I don't want to take ownership over this, but my ego is too big for me not to.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I created this world. Oh, yeah, I just said I was too good for it. That's right. I mean, I didn't want to create this world. I'm not too big for this world. I love it. I'm here for it. So John starts saying some crazy shit. And this is where you lose people. You show your hand. Like, oh, you're just pissed at Shuli and you want to find any reason to say that Shuli's a villain in this.
If you still employed him as it is being alleged, then you're just as guilty as far as I am concerned. In my honest opinion.
Honest. Okay.
If you're enabling a pedophile, then you're just as guilty.
Just as guilty.
And you know what?
Just as guilty.
You like that?
Just as guilty.
In John's mind, this guy comes to him and he goes, listen, I know I'm producing your show. Things are going pretty well. I just want you to know that I had this sickness and I just can't stop file sharing these awful videos and photos that is really just the worst thing to happen in our society. And Shuli goes, yeah, I mean, do you want a raise? Why are we talking about this?
Nice.
What do you need? Is this file sharing stuff expensive or how does that work? This is in John's mind. This is the conversation that fucking happened.
So you think we should do a CP segment?
Just as guilty, he says. What a fucking idiot.
Listen, I'm sure people don't think highly of how Joe Paterno handled the whole situation.
Right.
I don't think anyone thinks he's just as guilty as Jerry Sandusky.
That's very true. Good point.
I'd be worried about your own computer.
Oh, this is where John doesn't understand how computers work at all. So this is hilarious.
Because you don't know if this guy was emailing you, you don't know what virus got into yours. You don't know. You don't know. I'm surprised they haven't searched your computer, honestly. I'm not alleging you did anything on your part.
So he thinks the FBI should search computers for viruses? Are they the malware police? What does he think is going on here? So Iso got a virus on his computer for downloading these files. Then he emailed Shuli, and then that virus went through the email and got Shuli's computer. And he's just like, I think the FBI should investigate what your computer has.
I'll tell you, the amount of stuff Apple could get back to doing if they didn't have to correct people's computers who've emailed with pedophiles.
Right. This is so fucking stupid. John, this is not in your realm of understanding. You shouldn't comment on stuff like this. You're very stupid.
But maybe this fucking pedo did. I wouldn't. I'd go get your computer checked. If that was me, like let's say that Dustin turned out to be an arrested pedophile and we had emails together, I would go get my computer checked out, wouldn't you? That'd be the smart thing, but you're not smart.
No, John. That would be a very dumb thing to do. If you came into the computer shop and you went, hey, can you check my computer? A buddy of mine's really into CP. I just want to see if there's any of that on this computer right here. And they'd be like, a buddy? Oh, yeah, okay, sure. A buddy of yours. You're doing some research, were you? Is that why we're going to find some files?
I was emailing a pedophile. Could you make sure there are no crumbs on this computer?
He couldn't be more dumb. And he's just like, what, are you stupid? You're not even going to bring your computer into the shop? Like, no, John. You are stupid.
And this is performative John.
Yes,
and
correct.
performative John says the stupidest shit.
Yes.
And he's also claiming to have concern for Shuli for some reason.
I know.
This rant.
But I love the fact that he's just like, this is a no-brainer. Like, obviously you got to bring your computer into the shop now. You emailed with the guy.
You dumb fuck.
Anyone who's ever been on the Shuli Network, Uncle Rico show, have received emails from Iso. That was the email account that sent out all the StreamYard links. So
I was trying to think, is it possible John has gotten an email from this guy?
Probably.
Yeah, you probably got a link at one point.
Right?
I'm like,
yes, for sure, actually, yes.
I think our names have all gone through at least the FBI database once based on that. But
I remember one of the first things I asked Shuli when this all went down, I'm like, so the emails aren't going to come from Iso anymore, right? Like, no, we changed that.
One question, sir.
But that's the guy who set up the system and set everything up, so his name was attached to it, obviously. But John's so fucking stupid. Emails, well, then your computer probably has CP all over it. No, that's not how that works at all. You're an idiot. But John's not an idiot who's lonely. He's got a date with a lady tonight.
For tonight's date with a grown woman over 18. Skull! Yes.
$50 from the legend for his date tonight. Let's find out what that's all about.
That is a fact. That is a fact. A beautiful African-American woman and I.
A woman?
Let's just call her a woman.
Is this an Eddie Murphy thing? Why does he feel the need to always point out the race and ethnicity of these people?
Because it means he's progressive.
It doesn't. It's the opposite of that. When you feel the need to say, like, by the way, this woman friend of mine is black, you're like, oh, that's important to you? Because that's weird.
Are having dinner tonight, and it's going to be a wonderful time.
You don't know that. All right. So as I'm hearing this, I'm like, what happened to the Vietnamese girlfriend that he had? Did he forget about faking a Vietnamese girlfriend? Maybe that's the
I was
type.
hungry 30 minutes later.
Vietnamese
here we
lover had to go back to Vietnam.
My Vietnamese lover had to go back to Vietnam. I think he just realized, like, oh shit, I just said I'm going on a date with a girl. I was pretending to have a girlfriend before. So let's find out this horseshit story.
She had a sickness in her family.
Uh-huh.
Oh, no.
So since I'm not going to be exclusive when she's spending 2 months in Vietnam. So
she has a sickness on her upper lip now.
move up, move forward, stuttering stud.
Ugh. So John claims that his girlfriend from Vietnam that you don't know and you haven't met and you haven't seen her around has to go back to Vietnam for 2 months because there's a sickness in her family. Is that something where you're just like, well, I got to go for 2 months. There's a sickness in my family. Like, how would you know how long you need to be there? Doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm calling bullshit on this whole thing. I don't think there was a Vietnamese. I think there was a Vietnamese prostitute.
Yeah. I think that John is dating around the world, though.
He's
doing Asian and black.
Maybe he's going to Disney World in Orlando. That's where he's finding out. Yeah, it's a Swedish girl, and Danish. It's amazing what you find. It's crazy. All right. So the other thing that these people who are trying to get a gotcha on Shuli with, they're saying that ESO is the one who came up with the name The Uncle Rico Show. Now,
Oh my God.
can you believe it? How could you possibly? The Uncle Rico Show, of course, is referring to a character from Napoleon Dynamite. He didn't invent that.
No.
The people who wrote Napoleon Dynamite did. John happens to fit that character very well. But apparently, the fact that ESO came up with that idea means that it's the most toxic thing possible. And there's no way you can continue to use that name for your show.
No.
I am still appalled that the guy hasn't changed the name of the show. He's such a fucking grifting loser. He won't even change the name that was created by his pedo producer, ESO.
So that's a weird thing that people have invented now, where it's like, well, now you have to change the name of your show and all your branding because we heard that ESO came up with that idea. Is Volkswagen still a company? Is that still a thing?
Well, I was going to say, does Miramax still, I'm actually asking, does Miramax still exist, or do they change the name because it was Harvey Weinstein's parents?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that.
I think it probably exists.
I don't probably does. What was the other example you came up with earlier, Cardiff? Or maybe it was Mike.
Oh, Subway?
Yeah, Subway. It's like Subway employed a pedophile, and it was very famous, and he was the face of the company, and yet it's still Subway, where you get subs.
Right.
It's like, wow, that's so crazy. I can't believe that would happen. It's, well, maybe it's not actually affecting children, that it's still called the Uncle Rico Show.
I know the Uncle Rico Show does well, or, pays for a lot of views or whatever happens over there. But like, is the Uncle Rico the name such a fabric in society where it's like, well, we can't have this. We all know ISO Doe came up with this name.
Right.
But I was talking about with OJ today. Miramax is still a viable company.
There you go.
It's still in operation under the name Miramax.
Yep.
But if it was ESO's idea to come up with the Uncle Rico Show, it wouldn't be a big deal to change it anyway. Like, it's not like there's, the Shuli Network, I think, is the brand. But if that was like if he's dying on that hill, like, I created this name of this show.
But the song that Mike Morris wrote, though, Cardiff, he's got to write another theme song for this show. You don't know the work that goes into this, Cardiff.
It's time for the Sandusky Network Show.
All right. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it wouldn't take that much work. Now that you think about it. It's pretty good stuff. It's just so stupid because the whole reason why I hate ESO Doe is because of the victims involved in this kind of thing. The fact that people share these types of imagery and videos makes it so there's a market for this where children are tortured, and it's horrific. And that's why everyone hates it. I'm not speaking out of school.
I hate him because it makes, I want to make it about me. Is anyone on my side?
Right. So the idea that you're just like, and he still calls it the Uncle Rico Show. Is that harming children? Are they okay? Are there kids getting penetrated because it's called the Uncle Rico Show still? Or are you just making up something? You're just pretending to be offended by something because you just want the power of that. The
fake
power
outrage.
of being offended. Yes, fake outrage. Oh, I'm offended, therefore you owe me. Okay, that's a very 2019 way of thinking, but if you say so. This clip right here, because I remember this happening, where DabbleCon 2 is coming up. I remember Shuli saying ESO might even be there. Now, ESO lives in this area. So I was like, oh, maybe ESO will show up. We even heard from ESO.
And you haven't moved?
I know, that crazy. My house is for sale, but unfortunately, the property value has plummeted. So I don't know. So this is John addressing that.
But was Shuli not saying that he was coming to DabbleCon? I recall he was.
Yeah, he was. Doesn't that kind of prove that Shuli didn't know?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be your point?
Wouldn't that be the proof right there that Shuli didn't know that this was going to happen? Because he was just weeks ago talking about the possibility that ESO might show up to DabbleCon.
You're being a little disingenuous, though. He was headed to DabbleCon for the pedophile pageant that Cardiff was hosting.
That was a VVIP ticket. But yeah, no, I think every mention of ESO in the last year by Shuli or anyone on the network kind of proves that they didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
Because that name would have been wiped from their lips immediately if they knew.
No shit. There'd be no reason not to. That's what I can't understand. Like, I want to ask Kevin, Brennan, and John, and Rob Saul, like, so what was Shuli's endgame then? If he knew all of this and just kept it under wraps and was trying to cover up for him? What was the goal?
The only
there?
answer they have for that is, well, he's a pedophile also.
Right.
That's what they're coming up with.
That's the only thing you can say, and it's just like, well, that's wildly illogical.
Yeah.
So you're an idiot. Is stupid or a liar? Like Adam Carolla used to always play. Are you stupid or are you a liar? They're lying. I mean, some of them are also stupid.
Yes, I could think of some examples.
All right, now, for whatever reason, John has decided that he's seen what OJ looks like and that OJ's an ugly guy, which is odd because, and I don't judge guys' appearances, but from what I heard, everyone who met OJ was like, wow, what an attractive looking guy he is. People were surprised by that. And so John has decided that no. Just the opposite. He's a very ugly guy. And so John pulls up this video and he starts ripping on people's appearances, which, I mean, look at John. Obviously, if there's a guy who's going to goof on people's appearances, it's this asshole right here. But he also then tries to come up with another one of guys walk into a bar joke here. Oh, he's just not good
who
at these.
did that? Didn't you do that joke on the roast?
No.
Who did a middle and an opener walk into a bar at the roast?
So somebody did do that.
I thought it was you.
I don't.
Somebody
it wasn't
did
me.
do that. Like basically the exact same joke that he did.
Well, no, this is way worse. And when I heard this, it's funny you say that because I was thinking like, oh, if only John was on the roast, I would love to hear the jokes he came up with because this is what he thinks is funny.
All right, let's see what they have to say here. Obnoxious John, keep that filter on. Jesus, you fucking ugly. What a fugly bastard. El Horrible, which is another guy that should keep the mask on. And Stuttering Joe Depot. 3 cowards walk into a bar. And the bartender says, who are you?
Because
Get it? Because they're not famous.
Yes, that's funny.
Pretty good stuff.
it just dawned on me.
I like that.
Pretty good stuff.
It's gotta be a little weird for John. Like, I don't think this is his fault. It's just very strange to me. All of the world's ugliest people got together to hate him. It's very weird.
Yeah, go figure. How is
everyone
that
that hates him is
possible?
ugly.
Yeah. And you know who else is ugly is Gary Delabate and Fred Norris and Howard Stern. Like we were just doing the Living in the Past with Stuttering John on our Patreon. Yeah. You want to subscribe to that? Listening back to an episode from 2018. And that's his insult for everyone. Pocky, Artie Lang, everyone's ugly. John, you're also ugly.
It was his insult for Kate Meany and Keanu when they didn't want to fuck him.
That's right. Very attractive women are also ugly if John doesn't like you. So it kind of is meaningless at that point. So here is the big moment. This is the video that MutteringJ posted that proves that Shuli knew about ESO. And this is why John had to come back to the internet before he wanted to, or he was retired. He came out of retirement, according to him, to play this. This is the proof. This is the smoking gun that Shuli definitely knew about this. And
because, ladies and gentlemen, it is insane.
I should point out, this is an interview that Stuttering John did on the Bedablin show. And this was over a year ago.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Stuttering John, who used to be a producer of the Shuli Network, left that network, was let go, whatever happened. And he came on.
This was shortly after Pottstown.
So this is actually not shortly after Pottstown. This is over 3 months after Pottstown. And this producer, Stuttering John, left the Shuli Network not long after DabbleCon 1. Okay. There was a whole incident that happened with DabbleCon 1 and this guy, and then they went their separate ways. So this
How much child porn was this guy caught with?
Right. So this is like probably 5 or 6 months after he left the Shuli Network. Okay. And then he decided like, oh, you guys want to talk to me? I'll tell you what was going on over there. So he did these interviews, and I remember this very well. The guy was talking about how much money he made, and that would made big news. But he also said, like, listen, I don't have any problem with those guys. You know, it was a fun gig, and we got to do the shows. And I don't know, he wasn't like so butthurt about it. He's just like, Shuli's the worst, right, and I would never work with him again. It was nothing like that. It was what everybody wanted it to be, that hates Shuli, but.
Because, ladies and gentlemen, it is insane, but we are 105 days out from the Pottstown massacre, and we're still talking about this thing.
Postergate, day 105.
Yeah, so when was Pottstown? Was it April of last year or May?
May
of last year. So this is 3.5 months later that they're interviewing him. So that's what we're talking about time-wise.
As far as the producers go, ESO was at the top for a while, and then everyone else was kind of below him. So
Below him.
Is Issa still there?
As far as I know, yes. I haven't heard anything to the contrary. I know there was one other person that left, and he doesn't want me talking about him, so I won't.
So there is what this guy is saying. 105 days after Issa arrest, he was still working for the Rico show, according to Stuttering Joe Depot.
Hey, was he arrested at Pottstown?
Yeah,
what? 105 days. That's not accurate at all. And the guy goes, hey, does Issa still work there? I don't know. As far as I know, I don't know.
Yeah.
He hasn't worked there in many months. He doesn't know. And honestly, when Issa stopped working there, is because he was having his issues with his wife, as according to him, to Shuli. And so Shuli was just kind of like hopeful that he was going to come back, like resolve shit and come back. So he never like announced that Issa was gone. And like I said, the emails always came from Issa if he got invited on the show and shit. So this guy's like, yeah, from what I know, I don't know, he might still be there. And that's their smoking gun that like then Shuli definitely knew. There's proof.
Yeah.
Fucking idiots.
And if that Stuttering Depot guy was in that interview said, hey, you know what I heard is that Iso Doe got arrested for child porn and Shuli told him to go fuck himself and doesn't want anything to do with him.
Right.
John just wouldn't play that clip.
Well, or if he would have said, yeah, actually, Iso, who I used to report into, was arrested under CP charges and Shuli's trying to cover it up, that would be a smoking gun. That'd be specifically the smoking gun that these people are looking for.
Course, yeah.
And it's not that at all. It's not even close to that. So this
But I do think Stuttering Depot was at Pottstown. I think he left shortly after Pottstown. I think I remember him. I remember him like freaking out at Pottstown too.
Okay. Maybe he came back for Pottstown.
Equipment that he wanted.
Okay.
Like I remember him complaining about.
He talked about the budget he was given.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he sent ISO lists. I need this, and I need this, and then he showed up in Pottstown. Nothing was there.
Right.
That
That's
he
right.
asked for.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you might be right about that. I knew that there was some shit that went down for DabbleCon that he wasn't happy about, but yeah, you could be right about that. So this is John's conclusion.
I agree with Brennan. You knew. You knew. In my opinion, you knew.
In my opinion.
That's my allegation.
Based on what?
You knew.
It's such a weird thing to say. It's like, in my opinion, you're guilty. Like, well, either they're guilty or not. It's not an opinion, but okay.
Well, he even talked about ISO at one point saying, allegedly guilty of. No, you don't have to say allegedly, John. When the guy
ISO is guilty. ISO pled guilty.
Completely guilty.
That's not alleged at all. And we can have to speculate on that. So this is what John is.
He was the best goddamn producer in podcasting history. So Shuli had to keep him.
This is what John is resorting to again. Just a nonsensical argument that Shuli was covering up for this for who fucking knows why. And then John goes on to prove that he filed an FBI report. This is hilarious.
All right. So there is.
And this took him 3.5 minutes. I could have done one of my speed up things again to show you how bad he is at computers, but you get the point. You know how it goes.
My FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. So I was not lying. There is one of the 3 reports that I filed with the FBI.
So that was to prove that he filed a report with the FBI. Now, the FBI has not contacted any of us. So I don't think they're taking it seriously. On there by any chance? So listen to this, Mike. You're not going to be happy with what you're about to hear right here. But this is John claiming he's filed with the FBI, which I guess is supposed to scare us. Like, no, it just means you're pathetic. You're going to the FBI because a 24-year-old girl you were hitting on recorded your phone calls and now we're laughing at you. That's sad, dude. The FBI's laughing at you too.
Oh, absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
Against illegally recorded phone calls in the 2-party consent state of California. And the shitway knew they were illegal. Lady K knew they were illegal, and they still played it. Vinnie Paulino knew it was illegal. Comedy at the Carlson knew it was illegal, and they still played it. And they still played the phone calls.
What happened to Blind Mike? You've completely off the list now.
I knew it was illegal.
What the fuck? Give him some recognition. God damn it. Kirk Minahan really scared him away. It's crazy.
That's all I can think of. Why else am I not on this list anymore?
Doesn't make any sense to me. So all that proves that John's a Karen with the FBI. He went complaining to them. But guys,
and notice he used his California address.
Yes.
Well after leaving and abandoning his lease in California.
Yep, he doesn't live there. He doesn't live there, so it's bullshit. But this is ominous right here.
Stuttering John will get his revenge.
Whoa, whoa. Oh, no. Everything John says comes true, so now I'm very nervous. He's going to get his revenge on all of us.
Yeah, I thought the tapes weren't going to get played. I remember that. The people that thought the tapes were going to get played, they were in for a rude awakening, as I recall.
Right. Yep. Turns out everything that he said was false. Everything went perfectly to plan, and he's a loser who just threatens people with lawsuits and
calls their moms.
Getting arrested, calls moms. One more clip.
I still believe in him. I think you guys are going to prison.
So this is, maybe, we'll see.
It's going to be a party.
One more clip. This is a super chatter talking about Tony Michaels.
A-Par. Thanks for the $2. You know about Tony Michaels, dummy. What say you?
Okay, so John used to have Tony Michaels on his show. It became very apparent that Tony Michaels, that wasn't his real name. And he had been arrested for selling synthetic marijuana and spent prison time for it. But then he became reinvented as this political pundit who's, by the way, doing way better than John. He's got like 70,000 subscribers on YouTube. Tony Michaels is killing it compared to John. I think he's still part of the Midas Touch Brothers Network, whatever. So now John has to answer for why he was doing business with Tony Michaels and complaining about Shuli and Iso. And you know he's lying when he comes up with 3 excuses. Not just one, but 3.
Tony Michaels did not engage in pedophilia.
Okay, there's number 1. Okay. All right, so that's the bar now. You have to engage in that for you to disavow someone. All right.
And when I had him on, I never even knew about his crime.
That's a lie. Everyone made you very aware of that. Okay, let's see what else you got.
And have you seen Tony Michaels on my show in the past 2-3 years? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah, and why is that, John? You've explained it. Because he stopped returning your calls and emails. That's why. That wasn't your choice to stop having Tony Michaels on your show. That was his choice to stop.
Always thinks we can't.
Remembers it.
I know. He always remembers things incorrectly, which is quite a skill and talent. You hear that, John? I said you have a skill and a talent for reinventing and rewriting history at all times. Very impressive, sir.
Who are these podcasts?